Hello everyone! Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Neil Ryan Ildefonso. Ako po ay mula sa Pilipinas at ngayon ay kasalukuyang nag-aaral sa University of Manitoba sa kursong Master in Education, Major in Second Language Education. I am Neil Ryan Ildefonso. I'm from the Philippines and currently taking up Masters in Education in Second Language Education. And I'm doing a podcast project entitled Activating Multilingualism. This is a podcast series for plurilingual graduate students at the University of Manitoba Faculty of Education. So for today's events, we're going to be talking about 3 episodes, which would be, the first one would talk about plurilingualism as a tool in education, and the second part would be about indigenization and decolonization of education, and the third one would be about the globalization and the use of world Englishes. Okay, so welcome to our educational podcast series, and today we're lucky to have one of my good friends, Marta from Belize. Hi Marta, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you. Ink amash Mart sa Belize na kinchal na kunin West. Yo kinchit solok sa inse University of Manitoba. Anak pi join salom shirish changirunak. Mas ushitim ano naklain kunakim West sa Belize. Hi, my name is Marta Cook. I am from Belize. I am a teacher studying here at the University of Manitoba, and that is what I am learning about, how to improve my teaching for when I go back to Belize.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And you are, do you mind sharing to us what language
Yes,
was that?
I am. That was Kekchi, which is my first language. I am a Kekchi Maya woman from the Toledo area in Belize. We have 3 different groups of Mayas, and I'm just one of them.
Interesting. Okay. In the first topic, okay, in a world where multiculturalism and globalization are becoming the norm, understanding and embracing plurilingualism, the ability to use multiple languages in various contexts, is very essential. So our podcast aims to delve into how plurilingualism can be a powerful tool in education, enhancing cognitive abilities, fostering cultural awareness, and promoting social inclusivity. Through insightful interviews with fellow educators like Martha and with other researchers, we will explore the theories, benefits, challenges, and real-world applications and experiences of plurilingual education. So I hope that you join us on this journey as we uncover the transformative potential of plurilingualism in shaping the future of learning. So let's go to the first part of the podcast, okay? Plurilingualism as a tool in education. In your own point of view, what do you think is plurilingualism, and how do you think the concept has evolved over time?
Okay, I would say from what I understand that plurilingualism is the knowledge of different languages, so not just one, and how they coexist within a society. And I would say that I am a good example of a plurilinguistic person because I speak 3 different languages, English being one of them, and being the not the last language that I learned. Well, I'm kind of fluent in Spanish too, so that's the last language that I use. So depending on who I'm talking to, where I'm at, I choose which language to use, and I think that is the definition of being a plurilinguistic person.
Interesting. Okay. Now, what do you think are the cognitive benefits associated with plurilingual education?
Oh, well, according to research, and I will talk about that first before I speak about my own experiences. Apparently, students who are given the opportunity to speak their different languages, they are better at problem solving. They're better at they're more flexible when it comes to multitasking, and their memory, for example, is excellent. And so overall, they develop cognitively better, much better than those who may have knowledge of only one language. So it's really an advantage for any student to be given the opportunity to use their entire linguistic repertoire that they might have as a person.
Wow, well, I can see really how it helps me as well, being a plurilingual person, where I get to learn more words, more vocabularies, and more better understanding of the concept, because I have these different concepts in my mind, and it helps me to understand. Or sometimes there are some words that are hard to explain, but I make it easier when I translate it in our own language, and that is somehow the benefits as well that I've seen.
Yes.
It makes our mind function in so many ways, really.
Yes.
Now, what about plurilingualism in the classroom and beyond? Okay, what do you think are some of the strategies that teachers can use to integrate plurilingual practices in the classrooms?
I think when it comes to the classroom, I think that translanguaging is one of the ways that you can help students to understand different concepts that you're teaching in a classroom. For example, in Kekchi, for example, if I'm teaching a class, certain things that they might not be able to understand if I say it in English, they may be able to understand it if I use their first language, which is also mine, and I explain it to them in Kekchi. They may be able to understand it a lot better. And so I feel like, again, giving them the opportunity and using my own different language that I know to explain certain concepts, I feel like both of us will benefit. As a teacher, I benefit because I ensure that I am teaching them to the best of my ability, and as well they are learning, even if it's in their first language. The important thing is that I have passed on the message and they have learned whatever it is that I'm trying to pass on to
they
them.
Understood in the best way they could.
Yes,
they should better understand the concept. Otherwise, you would have this kind of assumption that they learned and
maybe they
didn't. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. So what about the parents? What do you think are the role of the parents and the community in promoting plurilingualism in education?
Okay, I think it used to be that parents, for example, in Belize, English is the official language. And I think it still happens here in Canada, where newcomers who have a different language come into the country, and they have children who may have started already learning their first language or their home language, and suddenly they are in an English speaking environment, and they feel like, okay, you can't speak that language anymore because it's going to inhibit your progress when you go to school. But what we've found out now through research is that actually having them use their first language and use their experience in learning that first language will actually enhance their learning of a new language, which would be English. And so I think that is the role of the parents, and especially grandparents as well, to help their children understand that there is nothing wrong with speaking or learning your first language. Actually, you have an advantage, like what I was saying, when you have more than one language in your pocket. You are better, like I said, at multitasking. Your memory you have so many other words that you have in your memory than a person who maybe speaks one language. And you learn how to problem solve, because at some point you will be in a situation where, how do I say this, and you have to quickly be able to learn to figure out how to say it, how to communicate. And the point of it all is to communicate, right? And so like I was saying, I feel like parents have a huge role in and the society in helping these students to learn better and to encourage them in speaking whatever language they may know.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Now let's go to the second part of the episode, the series, which is about decolonization and indigenization of education. So, in this transformative journey, we will explore the critical movements of decolonizing and indigenizing education systems worldwide. These concepts are pivotal in addressing historical injustices and creating more inclusive, equitable learning environments that honor and integrate indigenous knowledge and perspectives. Now, being an indigenous person yourself, okay, so I believe that this topic would be very much relevant to you. So, and we would really be thankful for whatever ideas and experiences that you have dealing with these topics. Okay, so what do we exactly mean by decolonization and indigenization of education, and how do they differ?
Okay. I think that the idea of decolonization is fairly new where I come from, because for generations we've had colonial ideologies and practices within our education systems. And so a lot of what we were learning, for example, when I was going to school, everything was basically um, ideas from another country, from the colonizing country, right? And so a lot of it was not relevant. We were reading books about the snow, or about stories that happened somewhere else, very foreign to us. And so the idea of decolonization is really and truly to begin to use practices in the educational system that is relevant for students. And so that brings us to indigenization, which is basically we're trying to integrate now indigenous knowledge and methodologies, which we know a lot about and is very relevant to how we live and how we learn within the curriculum of the educational system that we're in. So I guess that is the difference, where decolonization is in general trying to change the educational system, but indigenization is using indigenous knowledge within the educational system.
Great. All right. Now, what about the important role of indigenization and decolonization in the education systems? What is really the important role of these two significant concepts?
Okay. I like I was saying earlier, I feel like this came about because we started to realize that what we were teaching students was not relevant. They could not relate. And so if we are training students to become future leaders in our society, what are we really trying to teach them? If whatever it is that they learn in school is very foreign, it's not everybody that will leave the country to go live in these foreign countries, but really and truly, how are we using what we already have to bring them up so that they can live within the society that already exists where they live.
Yeah.
So I feel like the impacts, the long-lasting impacts of the colonial ideologies are the reasons why we must take a second look. We must take another look at what is happening in the educational system as we knew it, and we know that colonial ideologies and a lot of what colonialism brought into our countries was very destructive. And so a part of why the educational system has to change is because we need to heal from a lot of these long-lasting impacts.
Thank you for that. And to be honest, this is all something that our educational system in the Philippines is also trying to address. So that is why we have now concepts like contextualization and localization of the curriculum, so that students could really better understood what are these concepts all about when they are provided with artifacts that are really from the local events that would make the education more relevant to them. And I was a product myself of this colonial approach in education, and yes, I'm happy. I was happy that I was learning this stuff, because when I learned these new concepts as well, it made me better understood now the differences, and trying to be part of that change also when they implemented the new curriculum program. So I was part of these pioneers who helped the government in implementing these changes so that this would be more relevant to the learners.
I don't have, if I can add, I don't have anything against education, for example, because I am in Canada now, so I'm learning different things here. That is not the problem. I feel like part of the problem when colonizing ideologies are in the educational system is when you make a student feel like where they come or what they know or what the culture that they practice is inferior, or that they feel ashamed, or that they feel excluded from the educational system that's being promoted. That, I think, is the problem. It's not the learning of new things that is the problem, because that is excellent, because it's good to have different worldviews, to be exposed to different worldviews.
Exactly.
But it's the way that it's presented as the dominant way and the only way. That is the problem.
All right. So, what do you think can educators do in order to create an inclusive classrooms that honor and integrate indigenous knowledge?
Okay. I think, again, when it comes to research, they have found out that the indigenous knowledge histories is very important. So students have to learn their own history, where they come from, and the heroes that exist within their own cultures, right? And so a lot of times we don't hear about this in schools. They might especially if they come from like oral tradition, they might hear it from the grandparents, they might hear it from the parents, like through oral stories and so on. But really and truly, they don't know of the contributions of their own people in school. And so I think that could be one way. So including indigenous knowledge histories, pedagogies, the way that they live. For example, most indigenous people live off the land, and so taking care of the land, taking care of Mother Nature is extremely important. So that when you talk about, for example, this the problem of climate change, you can talk about, okay, how is it for many centuries that indigenous people have lived and taken care of where they've lived, and how important that is. They already have certain ways of taking care of Mother Nature, and so we don't have to go reinvent anything. But if we would bring in the indigenous elders that could teach the younger generations about these different ways of living, I think would be very helpful.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now let's go to the part 3 of our series, and this is now about globalization and world Englishes. So this is about the fact that in this increasingly interconnected world, the English language has emerged as a global lingua franca, but it is far from monolithic. This podcast delves into the fascinating dynamics of globalization and the diverse ways in which English is used and adopted across different cultures and regions. We will explore the concept of world Englishes, examining how historical, social, and cultural factors shape the various forms of English spoken around the world. Join us as we engage with fellow plurilingual educators like Martha and speakers of different Englishes to understand the global landscape of the English language. Whether you are a language enthusiast, educator, or simply curious about linguistic diversity, these podcasts will offer insightful discussions and broaden your perspective on what it means to speak English in today's globalized world. So let's talk about the concept of world Englishes and how did it originate. Can you give us an idea about this?
Well, I think world Englishes originated because in different areas around the world, I guess, we started speaking different forms of the same language.
Right.
So it became, there was so much diversity of the same English, and we made it our own. For example, in Belize, we have what you call Creole.
All right.
And that, I would say, is a version of the world English, right? So English speakers would probably catch one or two words when we're speaking Creole because it's broken English.
Right.
It's a language in its own right, but a lot of times even like a fluent English speaker would not understand it. So if two of us are talking Creole, they would have a hard time understanding what we were saying, even though it's a version of English. And so I feel like around the world, there are so many different versions that have come out. Pidgins and Creoles, like what I was explaining to you. So I guess that's where it originated. The word English is originated.
So it's also like the concept presented by Katsu, the three circle models, if you're familiar with that one, which categorizes Englishes into the inner circle, which is composed of the native varieties, the outer circle, where they're using this English as second language, and the expanding circle nowadays, where a lot of countries are using English as a foreign language variety. And along these varieties, there are really like changes in the words or in the pronunciation, and that is really like showing how dynamic the English language is. Okay.
Yes.
But then, so let's talk about these varieties of English. We've already mentioned about the Creole. Okay, can you give us examples of this, please?
Okay. So, for example, if I wanted to say in English, you would say, "Where are you going?" In Creole, we'd say, "Where you going?"
We're going.
Where you going? So if I say, and it's also fast.
Okay.
So in English, I might say, "Where are you going?" So it's a little bit slower than if I said it in Creole, "Where you going?" Okay. And so, where you going? Even if I said it slowly, an English speaker would probably not understand what going means.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So it's going, but it's spelled differently and it's pronounced differently
as well.
So yes, that's an example.
Okay, now let's talk about the future directions of English. Okay, whether we'd still see English as a global lingua franca, or maybe there's something going on. But to you, what is the future of world Englishes in a rapidly changing global landscape?
Okay, well, I've only read some research, so haven't done any myself. But I do agree that in the future, because plurilingualism is being promoted, or not promoted, but it's becoming a reality in most places, I believe that the native English, what we consider native English, may not necessarily be the norm. We're already seeing that it is not, right? That we're already because as generations change, they also, people are becoming very, very creative. Every generation there's something new, right? And so it's the same with language. And our languages, no matter which language it is, it doesn't remain the same. Because even my first language, for example, Kekchi, what my grandfather, maybe 2 generations back, what he spoke as Kekchi might not be the same as the Kekchi that I'm speaking today, or that the Kekchi that my children will be speaking. And so I think the future of English as the lingua franca may change. The status of it may change, but I know that the different versions of it has already changed. And so if that answers your question.
Yeah, I believe so. I agree that with a lot of countries, a lot of education organizations supporting plurilingualism as a very important tool in education, I think that would also somehow not really to put English in a disadvantaged position now, but somehow would empower other languages as well.
Yes.
So that if we are really like into reconciliation aspect of whatever horrible things that happened in the past, well, this is the way to go. That we really have to accept the fact that yes, we've learned so much from English, from learning this very powerful language as well. But here comes also the reality that we have to acknowledge indigenous languages, which are a lot of them are dying.
Yes.
So we really have to not only revive them, conserve them, but we really have to make the concrete efforts in order to save them from dying. So eventually, where are we going to be heading into this? Like, we cannot expect for the whole world to be just speaking English. Okay, so that alone is really like, we respect and we acknowledge the whatever the English language has done to empower also countries to become what they are now. But also along this progress, there's also the part where we left behind the indigenous languages and other native languages may not be existing in the next decades. So so what do you think are research areas that are crucial for further understanding the dynamics of world Englishes? What can we think about good research areas that would be focusing on this one, the role of world Englishes? For me, for example, in the University of Manitoba, okay, we keep hearing about this plurilingual education, but I'm really hoping that one day there would be a conference that would allow the use of world Englishes in such conference, so that, for example, you people in Belize may be using Creole in presenting something. And I think that would also be like giving really an idea of everyone, this is the kind of English that we have there, and we're proud to use it, and we're proud to bring it up on the global stage somehow, so people will be aware.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree that in the future, one of the things that maybe what could happen is, for example, the different pidgins, the different Creoles, they're actually recognized as languages
now.
Because before, even with Creole, it recently became got the status of actually being a language in Belize. At first, it was just and some parents probably,
like a vernacular.
Yeah, like it wasn't, it didn't have language status, but now it does. It has its own grammar, it has pronunciation and different, so it is a language. And so I feel like in the future the different versions of world Englishes should or will become recognized as just as important as the original English.
Yeah, original variety.
Variety.
Well, thank you very much for that, Martha, for your insights and your sharing, and for your contribution to, for learning more about the Creole language, and also your rich background. Thank you very much for sharing your journey with us. As we wrap up our journey through the multifaceted world of plurilingualism, we've explored the profound impact of embracing multiple languages within educational settings. Our discussions have highlighted the cognitive, cultural, and social benefits of plurilingual education, emphasizing how it fosters greater understanding, creativity, and global citizenship among students. Through engaging with Martha and her rich experiences, we've seen how plurilingualism not only enhances academic achievement but also promotes inclusivity and respect for linguistic diversity. By integrating multiple languages into our classrooms, we prepare learners for a world that is interconnected and dynamic, equipping them with the skills and perspectives needed to navigate and thrive in a diverse environment. We hope that this podcast has inspired you to think critically about the role of languages in education and to consider the transformative potential of plurilingual approaches. Whether you are an educator, policymaker, parent, or a student, embracing plurilingualism can contribute to more enriched, equitable, and inclusive educational experiences. Thank you for joining us on Activating Multilingualism. We encourage you to continue exploring and advocating for plurilingual practices in your own communities and beyond. Until next time, let's keep celebrating the beauty and power of linguistic diversity in education. Have a good day. Alam po. Goodbye.
Bye.